We need to start realizing that the Patriots are a bad football team. They're not a good team. They're just not. And we've seen enough. There's enough of a sample. There's enough evidence. This is not a good team. They will not be a good team in 2023. They are likely now on a path to a bad record. That's where they are. That's the reality check on the Patriots. Now, I had no expectations of them winning this game. I didn't. So I'd be lying to you if I said I did. You know what I was saying about this game. No shot. Chalk it up as a loss. They're not winning in Dallas. I did not expect for the team to get completely outclassed and embarrassed. Yesterday's loss is an embarrassing loss for this team. And it's not just the 35 points. It's not just the margin of victory. It's how bad the Patriots played in this game and how unprepared they looked for this game. They were not ready. They were not ready to show up and play a game at 4 o'clock yesterday. They just weren't. And they go into most games being at a disadvantage with their roster.
Oh, boy.
I think we know that. I think we've said that about this team. They don't have a great roster. They don't have a lot of high-end talent at various positions. But the guys who were on that roster were not prepared yesterday. And that goes to coaching. That goes to Bill, who coaches this team, who built this roster. And their game plan was garbage. Zoe just mentioned they did nothing defensively. They could not stop Dallas. Offensively, there's a million things wrong, and we're going to get to all of them today. It's a disaster. Their offensive line is a disaster. The sloppy penalties, they cannot shake. And here's what remains true. The Patriots do not beat good teams. They cannot beat good quarterbacks. Let's do the list again. Since the start of last season, these are the quarterbacks the Patriots have beaten. Mitch Trubisky, Jared Goff, Jacoby Brissett, Zach Wilson, Sam Ellinger, Colt McCoy.
These are all
three
facts.
Three of those wins were Zach Wilson wins.
All facts.
Those don't really count. I don't care what Zach Wilson did on Sunday Night Football last night.
Yeah.
Those aren't real wins. They have not beaten, outside of, I'll give them Goff, in a disaster of a game for the Lions here last year. They have not beaten starting level quarterbacks in the NFL. It's not like they just can't beat the good quarterbacks. They can't beat guys who are just starters, worthy of being starters. They can't do it. They're going to be outclassed. They're going to continue to lose games. And this should be a wake-up call for the entire organization where they are. This one feels really, really bad yesterday.
This one feels low. I mean, I've called a lot of games where they've gotten their ass kicked. And I remember the 14 one out in Kansas City. You know, that was a Monday nighter, right? When you already asked me, you're going to reevaluate the quarterback position. You had Tom Brady on that team. He eventually went on to win a Super Bowl.
That year.
Yeah, that year. Buffalo, you get your ass kicked. I remember that. 31-0, the Malloy game. They hate their coach. Remember the Tom Jackson quote?
Sure.
They ended up winning the Super Bowl that year.
But
there's no
when
Super
you
Bowl on the
mentioned that
horizon.
loss, right? You mentioned that game. That's a good one to bring
Yeah.
up. You mentioned losing 31-zip.
Yep.
Who'd you have on that team in that locker room with rings on their fingers? How many guys did you have in that locker room in 2003?
More than half your locker room?
Half the locker room had won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And half the locker room were great veterans who had been there.
That was the beginning of the dynasty.
I mean, think of it. You had future Hall of Famers on that team. You had Richard Seymour on that team. You had Ty
McGinnis,
Law. You had
Brewski.
McGinnis, Brewski,
Ted
Johnson,
Yep.
Tom Brady, Mike Vrabel. How many more guys do you want to name? Rodney Harrison. You had real talent and real experience on that team where they could say, all right, let's regroup. Well, this is not who we are. This team can't do that.
The problem
They
here,
don't have that on their resume.
Joe Judge handed out sweatshirts last week. It said, nobody's coming. It's on us.
Well, they really responded, didn't they?
No, that's factual. And that's the problem. There is nobody coming. And you've lost your two best defensive players. You may have lost your two best football players on your team. And Christian Gonzalez and Matthew Judon. Judon's done for the year. That's the way I'm just chalking that one up, just based on
Dietrich
Wise. Let that
the way
one out
he
of the bag.
spoke.
Yeah. You have no juice on offense. Nothing. That team had 4 receivers that would be here one instantaneously if one of those guys came here. If their number 3 or 4 came here, they would be the one. How is that? How is that? You get a quarterback on a rookie contract where you should be able to have all this other talent built around him to help him. And we're going to be talking about Mac a lot, obviously. It was his worst day as a Patriot, worst day of his career. But he's trying to do too much because nothing's there. Nobody's getting open. Nobody's blocking. They didn't move the ball in the line of scrimmage. I thought they would have built off that from the Jets week where you actually started to get Trent Brown back and you saw some push up front. And there was something there. The ground game woke up a little bit. That's why I said, okay, maybe go in there, run the ball, protect it, don't turn it over, play a clean game, get out of there, screw them up on defense, make them give you one or two, and then maybe you got it. Boy, was I hoping. Boy, was I wrong. I'm not going to do that again this year.
So I think the balance of this season is determined.
What's a league? Like, you don't have the talent the league has.
The next 2 weeks.
Oh, God,
The next 2 weeks.
Oh, you're in a week-to-week determination now.
I mean, but these next 2 weeks are the weeks that will determine if the Patriots can salvage a respectable year. They started 1-3 in each of the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
2 years ago, they had 10 wins at the end, and they were in the playoffs.
I think they've started
right?
1-3 the last 3 years.
They got hot in the middle. Did I say? Yeah,
Last
well,
2.
including this one, it's 3. I'm saying the previous 2 seasons.
It's 3 in a row. They've started 1-3.
Exactly.
Post Brady, 1-3 to start the year.
2 years ago, 10 wins, playoffs. Last year, they end up with 8 wins. And that, again, that's not a playoff team, but that's not an embarrassing record. You're not embarrassed at the end. This year, the schedule is far less forgiving than it was in each of those last 2 seasons. And so the next 2 games for the Patriots before they go into a Bills-Dolphins back-to-back situation.
Yep.
They've got the Saints at home, and then they go on the road to take on the Raiders. If they split these 2 games, they're in trouble.
You're dead.
And if they lose next week at home against the Saints,
it could get ugly.
This is going to get very, very ugly. This is going to be very bad. And that is the pressure that Bill Belichick has on him right now to be able to right this ship and somehow find a way to get this team to 3-3. Because that's the only way they're going to be able to have 8 wins at the end of the year. That's the only way they're going to be able to do it. It happens now after a 1-3 start. It's a big, big hill to climb. Bill Belichick said after that game that they are better than what they were on the field yesterday. I don't believe him. That is who they are. And that's a real problem. And so you've just got to hope for other teams to have bad days. And you've got to hope for backup quarterbacks and injured quarterbacks and quarterbacks playing poorly. That's the only way they're going to find ways to win games. And it only gets harder. With the Judon injury, with the Gonzalez injury, this is not going to be easy. This thing is teetering.
I heard Mike Reese today, too. Like, Jack Jones could potentially be back this week, but Mike was led on to believe that's more of a middle season type thing. You might be toast by then. You're not getting Jack Jones back this week. Marcus Jones doesn't come back anytime soon. You don't have corners. You don't have corners right now.
And how do you not lose the room? How do you not lose the room right now? Because there was some quit in that team yesterday, and it started with their quarterback.